G'day crew, welcome to Goat Fantasy. It's the Wednesday Rage Trade edition. Goat Fantasy Podcast brought to you by checkmyrate.au. Visit the website, it's free to use. Take control of your financial future. Brandon and the team will help you get a better home loan rate. Apologies for the late start this week. Lots going on, a bit at home with a bit of illness through the camp. And then Tuesday, obviously a coach sacking day. There's not a lot of time for podcasting, unfortunately. And it is a pretty big week. There's lots going on and a lot to discuss from a trades perspective. Some pretty big injury news last night from St Kilda, which we'll get to in a moment. But I didn't want to totally lose this podcast, even though our Rage Trades are sort of well and truly done on the app after a pretty difficult weekend across the board. Just wanted to take stock just for a moment and just thank everyone for their support on Goat Fantasy. So we've ticked over 100,000 downloads, which, just for your information, actually equates to about 86,000 listens. So about running at about sort of 86%. Download to listen ratio. So it's a tight-knit family. It's a small family still at Goat Fantasy, but I appreciate everyone who tunes in and downloads the podcast. And yeah, it's been an area of a lot of pride for me from a professional sense, and it's been a lot of fun as well. And then Darcy and Luke have come on board to help out this year, particularly from a socials perspective, and they've been doing a great job. So tight little team here at Goat Fantasy, but just again wanted to reach out and say thank you for your support right from the start. And then from a news perspective, from the fantasy world, well, Nasai Wanganeen-Miller is out for 3 weeks with a calf strain. So initially this is the public circle of information that we've received, which is they thought that it was a corked calf, and then perhaps there was a bit of bleeding, which perhaps maybe stopped them from seeing the scan correctly. And yeah, so apparently they've rescanned and it's a calf strain. So he's missing 3 weeks, which means 4 games out in total. So there's some horror stories out there about what happened when he was announced as a laid out. But ultimately, in fantasy, he is now a must trade. And then in Supercoach, 3 weeks is a long time to hold. And perhaps your situation as to whether you hold Nasai depends on how many trades you've got left and how the structure of your team, how you can cover him. There's a lot of things that we need to take into account here with Naz. But ultimately, it's a pretty annoying situation for us when we thought that he was going to be a keeper. He was going to be in our side for the rest of the year. We got on board when he was a bit cheaper. And now he goes. So the question is, what direction do you go in here? And I guess from a value perspective, Dane Zorko sort of seems like the easy pivot. He wasn't great last week. He's coming back from a calf. Was excellent against Essendon in his return game. Maybe the second game back, not as good. And they play Thursday night football, so you have to make a decision pretty early. He's got a good record against Geelong, so still a pretty high break even. So he's going to get cheaper than what he is now, which is about $9.50. I do have it written down somewhere, but yeah, he's $4.50 in Supercoach, which is just absolutely ridiculous how cheap he is, with a break even in the 80s. So Supercoach is a good week to get on. If you can trust his body as a 37-year-old and under $1 million, is a very good price for Zorko in fantasy after that 28 earlier in the year. Josh Dacos has got pretty cheap, and he trained in the midfield today for Collingwood. James Sicily, I don't mind as a pod. He had that one game where he had the sore ankle, but he's been pretty good this year. He was tagged last week by Paddy Voss. Nick Newman's still cheap, so is Bailey Dale. There's lots of options here. Carl Amon is one I don't mind. He's got consecutive tons, I think, if not 3 in a row. Ever since he had that break, having started the season with a bit of a grumbly knee, he's been excellent. So he's an option as well from Hawthorn if you're looking for some budget. And if you really want to go and drop down, which I'm not sure many would, but Connor Buderick, 100 last week, and he's in the 7s in AFL Fantasy and pretty cheap in Supercoach as well. And I'll just talk you through the rationale here, because he was someone who was on my mind earlier in the week. And Connor Buderick has back forward eligibility. There's no rookies this week who we love, and it's quite possible that Budrick can make you a little bit of money, and he's sort of a stepping stone to a better forward or defender, or however you want to flick him around later in the season. So stepping stone only, but maybe that forward back eligibility gives you a bit of flexibility during the buys. You know, there's a few things here which make him a handy little acquisition. So for instance, this week I'm looking at Nasiah down to one of the defenders who have been in good form and are a bit cheaper, and then going Farrow up to Budrick. So you're getting Farrow, who sort of looks unplayable after the last couple of weeks. You get him up to a player who you're hoping is going to bash you out an 80, 90 or a ton, and then hopefully replacing Naz with someone who can still knock out a ton as well. So that's where sort of my head's at, because no cash in the bank and no real great rookie options this week. So Will Edwards, we think, is going to have reasonable job security even with the return of Tom McCartan. I think he's pushed ahead of Melican. And then the only debutant named up as of the Savo was Tom Anastopoulos from Port Adelaide. He's sort of pretty pint-sized, diminutive young man. I think he's going to play sort of as a smallish forward. Not sure if he's going to be a massive fantasy scorer. Jack Eisen is debuting for Carlton, which has just come through. And he's got the Sir Doug Nicholls round debut with some First Nations heritage, which is a nice story for him. But I'm not sure about Jack. I haven't seen much of him, watched him play VFL. Didn't have much of an effect on that game. He's still pretty young. So there's not a lot of places to go. In Supercoach, you could try Liam Henry, who Ross Lyon hasn't trusted implicitly over his time at the Saints. But he would be an option for Supercoach because he's on the bubble. Don't get Dara Joyce. He's not going to be in the team long term at Brisbane. That would be a mistake. A few other names to throw around. So Isaac Rankin, I think we've talked about him enough to understand that even though he's really well priced, he's got a bye coming up. Plus he's going to be tagged this week by North and then Mullen after the bye. I don't think you can go there. The more budget forward options who are a bit more reliable, I think Jack Ross, who's $850 in AFL fantasy, so long as he's playing as a full-time mid and not tagging, he's been a good forward. And Sam Durham is cheap because he got that forward status early in the season, is now back in the midfield. I do quite like that Durham move. If you're shopping in the forward line, even this could be a week, to do a switcheroo away from Rochelle. But every week I say this, I want to give Rash one more, and if Rankin gets tagged, then maybe that frees him up to have a bit more of an influence on the game. And then I noted the Traders boys, they talked about Marcus Bontempelli as being the must-have value player of the week. He's still under $1 million and still knocking out massive scores. Hard to argue with that. Last week I would have said, well, they've named up the fact that he's got 2 injuries and maybe you shouldn't be chasing that, but he just seems to be able to score regardless of how his body's going. So I think if you're looking for a midfielder, Bont's not going to get any cheaper than this, so it might be the week to launch on him finally. But yeah, just a few thoughts to throw around as far as trades this week. We'll keep across as much news as we can. Darcy Cameron is out for Collingwood. I've just sort of remembered that came across our desk today, and it brings into pretty sharp focus Brodie Grundy on Friday night as a VC option for you. Most likely Oscar Steen is going to lead the ruck there. So if you've got him as a rookie, that might give you a little boost in scoring. So Cameron has an ankle concern, and also his partner is pregnant. So between those two ideas, he's just going to have the weekend off. And yeah, it's interesting. I'm in a fantasy league who, on the WhatsApp, they immediately posted saying, watch the Swans react and give Grundy a rest or play Laddams. Like, this is their chance to give him a bit of a break, because they have spoken about the fact that they want to manage him to make sure that he's fit and firing for the pointy end of the season. So, yeah, a bit to work through on GOAT Fantasy. Appreciate, as always, you getting on board the podcast. Here's to the next 100,000 downloads. Hopefully we get there rather quickly. We've still got the mailbag segment, so we'll pump that out soon. I actually dropped this microphone on the ground last week, and it's got a big dent in it. I thought maybe it was curtains. It was all over, dead, but it has seemingly survived. I'm not sure if the audio quality is as good as normal, but it might be time for an upgrade anyway. Maybe a gift to myself for reaching the 100k mark. All right, appreciate your time as always. Catch up soon.